The banking and financial services industry has weathered many storms in the past few decades globally. However, the Indian banking sector has always been very robust. But with the increased NPAs which have hit the media, as well as the bribery and corruption issues, that stability has become a question mark. Everybody talks about NPAs in the media. The question becomes, what are these NPAs? How do we unmask them? Accordingly, we conducted a survey. We looked at more than 100 people across the banking and financial services industry. One of the key findings of the report was that 72% of the people who were polled actually said the NPA situation would become far worse than it would get better. It also shows that India has become a part of the global economy. Global cues seem to have impacted people's pessimism. It also shows that the bribery and corruption issues, as well as the earnings not keeping up with guidance, have impacted the way people feel about this. It does mean that we have to keep a close eye on NPAs in the next few months. The Reserve Bank of India has done a significant number of new steps to help banks. They have helped in the way transfers are done to asset restructuring companies. They've also helped in fast-tracking the cases which are coming under bad loans or non-performing assets. They've also helped in banks getting speedier resolution through the judiciary system. However, they've also added a new framework to be able to track pre-sanction and post-sanction loans. They have given very clear prescription on what should be done pre-sanction and post-sanction. But that put a lot of onus on the banks to comply, because they will have to put in a lot more new procedures across their banking system, which means also the branches in remote locations. I think it's all good at the end of the day, as the NPA system does require to be managed so that we can weather this storm just like we did many decades back.
The trigger for the NPA issues is the stressed asset percentage, which has been a cause of concern in the last 2 years. While corporate borrowers continue to blame the declining economy, independent audits have identified two issues. It's either willful default or diversion of funds, which is added to the stress. There have been many high-value loans which have gone bad, in spite of large banks either being a part of multiple lending arrangements or under a consortium. So the question remains, is the rise in NPAs due to internal lapses in due diligence at banks, or are complexities of business making it difficult to detect issues or any wrongdoings by borrowers at an early stage? Our survey states that 87% of the respondents believe that the rise in NPA or stressed asset numbers is due to the diversion of funds to unrelated business or fraud. 64% said a major reason for every stressed asset or NPA is lapses in the initial borrower due diligence. 54% attributed this to the inefficiencies in the post-disbursement monitoring process. 91% of the respondents said that an account should go through a forensic audit before it goes for restructuring.
One of the challenges faced by the banking sector is the inadequacy of existing mechanisms to identify NPA. Even after implementing core banking solutions, NPA flagging and tagging was continued to be done manually, leading to errors and manipulation. But with technology-based solutions coming into play, banks moved to system-led identification. However, this led to a sudden spurt in the NPA reporting for some large banks, raising concerns over the existing mechanism to track NPAs. According to our survey, 86% of the respondents said that the existing mechanisms were inadequate. Our survey respondents highlighted some key focus areas to enhance controls around NPA identification and reporting. These included periodic reviews of the automated mechanism to check for errors on a proactive basis, a centralized monitoring team to review exceptions identified around changes in NPA status, enhanced internal skills to reduce dependency on outsourced vendors for managing NPA identification system. To help banks, we have created an automated tool called NPA Accurate, which can help banks identify vulnerabilities in the NPA identification process. Our tool has an intelligent risk scoring mechanism to focus on the top branches and key customer accounts. It also has built-in red flag scenarios to identify vulnerabilities. The Reserve Bank of India and Ministry of Finance are taking steps to mitigate the risks around the NPA bubble. The emphasis is more on proactively managing the account and identifying the early warning signals before the account turns bad. Over the next 1 year, banks should make investments in the areas such as technology and data analytics, conduct independent borrower background checks, and enhance the skill sets of their internal teams around credit evaluation and assessment.
The NPA situation in India is quite serious. However, that doesn't mean we can't address it quickly. The Reserve Bank of India and the Ministry of Finance has done a significant amount to help the bankers out. They've increased the penalty for defrauders. They've also clarified their stand on willful defaulters. They've also made it easier to transfer asset to asset restructuring companies. In addition, they have given a number of guidances and frameworks to the bankers to follow. However, now the ball stays in the bankers' court where they need to follow their procedures in spirit and form. That means that don't just take the policies and try to say I have a policy and not do anything about it. It actually means put down procedures. Make sure every branch, even the most remote of branches, follows those procedures in spirit. You can't just keep changing the tenure of loans and increasing the period by which you recognize the non-performing asset. I think if everyone does it in spirit, we will get to the end result. Though the whole problem about NPAs is a long and winding process, but I do think we can get there as long as all the policies and procedures laid down by the RBI are followed in spirit.